Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton, and along with me, as always, is the rapid, rascally rabbit of hybrid racing, Bethany McChesney. And this episode is brought to you by Duonamic, creator of incredible door frame thingies that are easy to use and hard to say, and Designateddrinks.ca, provider of non-alcoholic beer, and getting an incredibly bigger and bigger list of options. It's like getting huge. It's almost confusing.
Yes, it's definitely option overload.
And actually, about Duonamic too, they have a new product thing coming out soon. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you any more about it yet, but I'm just going to tell you there's something happening. A brewing. So we'll see when it comes out, but very exciting. And it is very cool because I guarantee it's something that I want. So moving right along. How was your weekend? Do anything?
I had a fantastic weekend. How was yours, Dave?
Good. Lots of driving. So anytime there's lots of driving, I love it. Yeah. So Leah, why don't you start? Why don't you start with what we did?
Yeah, so we went down to Chicago for the Hyrox North American Championships. It was also the Elite 15. And then the rest of the races after the Elite 15 were primarily the North American Championships for all of the doubles. So we both competed in the mixed doubles. And I haven't done this before. I did one Hyrox 3 years ago and have not had the opportunity to go back and do it again. So I did it with my partner, Jeff, and it was so much fun. I haven't touched the Hyrox sleds in 3 years. So I do think if I had run it in the pro women's heat, I probably would have lost sleep over the sleds because they were a bit traumatizing the first time I did my Hyrox. But the team races in hybrid racing are honestly where it's at when it comes to like optimal levels of fun and still challenging yourself. And so Jeff and I had zero expectations really. A podium would have been nice. And we ended up finishing third in our heat, which was the fast heat. And then someone from the heat after us snuck in about 9 seconds faster than us and took us off the podium. But that's okay. We had a really good time. I'm not surprised, but we had the fastest running split of all of the mixed teams. We were both definitely better runners. But yeah, if we did it again, we definitely need to push the stations a little bit more. But we had a really good time.
I think the thing that got me, and I was looking forward to this because this was a chance again for Ryan and I to run together and to compete together. And we had zero expectations for competing because we were going out to have a workout together and have fun. Rice struggled with quite a bit of ailments lately, so she's not at her peak. So we were just happy to be there and happy to be having a healthy run. And we had a blast. And I was going into this trying to lift my Hyrox curse, first of all, to actually get to an event after 2 or 3 false starts and not quite making it and whatnot. So I was really finally happy just to get into the building. And then we started and we had a great time. We had a good fun, met some people on course. We talked. We didn't walk, but by any chance or anything, but we didn't push ourselves too far. I mean, we ran a 1:24, which was fine for us. And this was my first chance and hers to actually touch the stations at all. For me, what would be a men's open weight, for her, what would be a women's pro weight. And obviously the sled was a scary thing going in. And I found for me was okay. It was fun. I said this on our way home when we were driving back, is probably my only real regret is I didn't give the pro weight one a chance in the warm-up area because I never even thought about it at the time after the race was done, because it was only set up for the open weight. I never thought about it. And I'm like, oh crap, I should at least give it a push and seen, right? Give it a try. But Rye was able to push the that was the pro women's weight. And it got me thinking about their whole little, I guess, catchphrase, race for everybody or whatever it is, or something along that lines.
Yeah.
I kind of pish-posh that before, saying that I don't really think it is. It's too long. Some of the weights are too heavy, and such. And I don't know. It may have changed my mind a little bit because it was doable. And if you're a guy of any, maybe for everybody is the wrong word, but if you have any kind of moderate athletic background, any moderate strength whatsoever, like if you're a construction worker or whatever the case may be, something along that lines, have a physical job of some kind, the open weights are very attainable. They're
Mhm.
very
Oh,
doable.
mhm.
And for Raya is not someone who I would say is a powerful woman, but she was able to push the women's pro weights.
Mhm.
Would it have been very fast? No, but she could do it. She could get through it, which means the open ones for her would definitely be something that she'd move. And I think maybe they're close. Maybe they are close. I would still say that DECA is more for everyone,
Yeah.
but it's not bad. And the running, I mean, it's intervals. You take it as you go. If you got to go slow, you go slow. If you got to walk, you walk. You do what you can.
Mhm.
And it was all sorts of sizes and shapes and abilities and levels and out there. And I can take it back. I think they're close. I think they're closer than I thought they were anyway on that. And the one thing too, like it is a big production.
Yeah. Hyrox does such a good job of the production side that you have the DJ going the whole time and the big blow up arches before every station and like awesome gear. The DJ or the MC is like kick ass too. So the whole production side of Hyrox, the finish line is remarkable too. Big flashing lights, like it's like you're like at a party or something. So they do a really, really good job of that.
It was good that way. I did like the finish line, and I've complained before, and I'm not reneging on this because I still think it's ridiculous. But I've complained before about crazy maps, crazy zone layouts, crazy stations, and all this stuff. And it still is. It's still crazy. However, the board telling me what lap I'm on and what zone to go in, that actually was effective. It was big, it was obvious. Could you skim by it if you're mid race, hard at it, racing side by side with somebody? Yes, you could. Yes, you can mess it up. And yes, it's still easy to do. But for your average person running a regular race, yeah, you can find your way. Everything is well marked.
Mhm.
Everything was good that way. I'm not going to say the layout was logical because it still made no sense to me, but things were findable. And once you got to the zone, it was very easy to get into it. And the volunteers would make sure you get out the right side. It made more sense in person than it did on paper, but it's still crazy. It's
Yeah, it just creates a lot of variance too with courses. Like this one, the rock zone was very long, and that adds to time. So you get in, and then you could be running up to 80 meters into the station. So that's a huge variance factor. Um, yeah, and then the turnarounds with different things, but and then just not there was many conversations I had also before about how many laps until you go on, how many times do you pass the out thing. And I still, even in the race, I didn't know actually when I was supposed to go into wall balls because it was a little bit different than the other ones. And our strategy was just to look and see if the team was in there that was
what if you had been in the lead?
then we would be screwed. I guess we didn't think we necessarily would be. We were actually figuring that one out on the fly.
All right. Well, the thing I didn't understand. So the first lap of the course was you started in the starting corral, which let's just say was on the west side of the course, which I don't know, but if I'm just looking at it from above, north being forward, we'll call
Yeah.
that
Okay.
west,
Mm.
right? Then you would go and you'd run out of there, but it was about midway up the long side on the west side. So you'd run up, cross the north side, you come down the east side, past the out area of the rock zone, all the way down that side, and right after the corner, which would have been hard turn, was a hard 90-degree turner, was the in to the rock zone. You'd pass there and back to where the starting corral was. So that was one lap, around again for two laps up to the start corral, and then all the way back down to the start again. So it was like 2 3/4 laps was your first run. Then every lap after that, you come out of the out, and it would be like 2 1/4 laps.
Mm.
Then the last one, you'd come out the out, and then it was past the in again, then past the in again, and all the way around to the northwest corner, which would be where you would run into the wall balls.
Mhm.
So it was like another 2 3/4, maybe more, whatever, for that lap. So great, we got through it and all that. But then when they changed the configuration for the pros, where they made everything central so everyone in the stands could see most of the zones in the station, which is great for viewing and it worked well. But then all of a sudden, their last lap was only 1 3/4.
Mhm.
And I don't understand where the distance was made up. So you're talking like 400 meters of distance, and I don't know where that was made up.
So it either had to have been made up in the rock zone because they always had to run all the way across the rock zone to where the grid was,
But
which is my assumption.
I still don't see that though, because even if, like, say, when we turned in, and I think it was the lunges of the farmer carry was the first one, like right there. So even if we did that and then we had to run all the way to the open, which was pretty much right at the other end of the rock zone, I just don't, I don't know. The math didn't seem to add up to me.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily did,
Yeah, I
but
think witchcraft.
yeah, yeah, I think they were just, it is what it is. And
Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, it was still, it was a great race. It was a great race. Hats off to the podium finishers for the men, David Magida, who you're going to hear a lot from very soon. Coming first, our very own Team FX Dylan Scott, hell of a race, coming second place. We couldn't be more impressed with him. And third place, Michael Sandbach, who put in another strong effort and is lover of dogs, Michael Sandbach, who is quickly putting to bed any doubts in his strength of him mentally. He's
yeah.
really coming around. So that, and then for your women, the top three proved again that they were the top three, with Michaela Norman coming first and just running an excellent, brilliant race, really smart strategy. Meg Jacoby again, she's just tough as nails. She is going to be in the mix no matter what. And Lauren Weeks doing what Lauren Weeks does and being right up there again. Maybe getting a little outworked this time, where maybe, where her strategy of all
Run
out
away. Yeah.
maybe caught up to her a little bit. Maybe,
Mhm.
maybe Michaela learned on this one when to kick a little bit better.
Mhm.
And despite, and we do mention it later on in our interview, but despite a really hard fall, like just,
Yeah, the first 200 meters. Mhm.
yeah, just getting up and smashing it. So that was awesome.
Mhm.
And then of course we rabbited.
Yeah.
And I think that you got more cheers than anybody when you were out there running full force with the Elite 15 man, and pat on the back, keeping up with these absolute monsters and running full force. And I think there was so many people that noticed Bethany McChesney that day going, holy cow, this girl can run.
It's one thing I can kind of do. I honestly, I was more nervous for rabbiting this race than my own race because I felt this obligation to try to showcase the running part of these races. And so yeah, I wanted to do a good job. So I put it all out there as a rabbit, and I put my heart and soul into keeping up with them as long as possible, and trying to keep that darn gimbal focused on them. And sometimes it went a little bit crazy because it's always looking for the object that it's supposed to find, and sometimes it would spin around and all of a sudden it would be right back up in my face. But props to Jason Dupree on the other end, who was always editing it. So thankfully, you never had some random shots of my face trying to chase after the man running a 3 minute kilometer, pumping my left arm only and trying to focus with my right thumb. And but yeah, it was wild. And honestly, it gave me so much respect and appreciation for these athletes. And I think to me, though, especially the women, because I think the men's race was so much more all over the place when it came to pacing and the men, but we took the women over. So I only really ran with the men for the first 3 or 4 kilometers, but then the women, and I kept honestly hoping for the women's pace to soften, and it did not. And I was like, okay, surely after the sled pull, like we're gonna stop running a 320-kilometer here. And nope, never. Or the lead would change, and then when Michaela took it over at the after the rower, and then it was a 3-woman race with Michaela and Lauren and Meg, and then now we're running hot again. And then Michaela made a hard move after Farmer's Carry, and now we're running a 3-minute kilometer again. And it was at that point, it was just, I'd probably already run about 10K, running under 3:30 a kilometer. And I was so spent. And I think that's when Dylan took my gimbal and helped me out a little bit. And I was really only able to maintain about a 400 meter. And then you would switch off, or Dylan would switch off. And it just, my mind was just blown at the level of athleticism with these women and men, and just how fast they were running after doing such incredible feats in the stations too. So, I mean, if you're wanting to be the top of the top in Hyrox, you have to be an incredible runner and super strong and be able to put it all together. It's not, you can't be just one or the other.
It was crazy. And I was not intending to run because I was going to be the zone guy. But then the way it worked out, because we dropped back to cover the women, it was like, okay, no, I have to run some, because like, there's just no way we can do this properly unless I do.
Mm-hmm.
And just running with them, I'm like, one, I'm never professed to be a great runner, So if you don't run, I'm fast. If you run, I'm not. So, but running with, a couple times, like you say, with that lead pack and just giving all I can, and one-handed running sucks.
Yeah.
Again, I'm
moving,
not
trying to focus the camera.
Yeah, trying to focus the camera, and you're like convinced it's all over the place. You're sitting there going, this is freaking horrible. There's no way this looks good whatsoever. But you're hauling and you're giving it everything you can, and you're going and you're going, and it's just the pace that those women went out at. And I'm running with, I think it was Meg and Lauren at the time, and then like, we're passing Michael Sandbach. Why are we doing this? This is not right. Like, you're all going too fast. Let's just pace ourselves. And I think one of the funny ones was at the end, you were with the leaders, and I stayed back with Tara, Viola, Bridget Brown, and Vivian. They were kind of having a battle, and I ended up going out of the lunges with Tara. And I thought, okay, well, I should be able to keep up here because she's just done all the lunges. She's been in the middle of this battle, and she's going to be tired. So I had planned to stick with her all the way till she got to the wall balls. And I don't know what happened, but she picked up the pace like mad. And it even got mentioned on the live stream. Oh, Tara's just smashing this lap. And I'm like, oh, son of a... So I stuck with her for one lap and went to the wall balls, and I'm finding Vivian. I want to do Vivian's wall balls. Because I was like, oh, I'm done. I got nothing left. And of course, like you said, we had raced earlier and then did this. And I would on my best, I don't expect to keep up to them. And then trying after all that was just, I was proud of what I did. I was proud and happy with what I did.
Tired. Yeah, I was so exhausted after doing that.
And it gave me great, like, I appreciated him before, but even more appreciation for Graham and his Hyrox, when he does his one-man Hyrox coverages. Just what a great job he does rabbiting out there, and how good a runner he is.
Yeah.
So it was great. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So many great people there, like seeing. Oh, and one thing, I do have to bring this out. So Matt B. Davis said to me afterwards, he goes, "You run very funny." Like, I've always said I'm not a good runner. So he did say, though, that he thought he could beat me in a race. I've been thinking about this. I'm like, all right, Matt, if you want to do a 5K, I will do a 5K with you. No burpees, no pull-ups, no obstacles, none of those other things that would be to my advantage. If you want to do a 5K race, I'm in. Just throw it out there. And I probably won't even train because I'm too focused on other things, and it'll just be what it is. So if my funny running's not enough to beat Matt, then it's not. But I think I am okay.
All right, let's plan it. 5K.
Yeah. So it was great. It was a great experience, and I loved it. And I just kudos to the whole Hyrox operation. It was awesome, and the hotel it was a great hotel, great
Yeah.
venue. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I just even the hotel. You want to know what's a good hotel? I'll tell you a good hotel story. They screwed up my breakfast. So on Saturday morning, they screwed up my race morning. They screwed up my breakfast. And when I mentioned it, rather than make excuses or whatever, they said, "Don't worry about it. There's no bill. We apologize. Have a great
Mhm.
day." And that just shows people that back up what they're doing. So I was very
Mhm.
pleased with that. And I just think everything from the service, from the valets that parked the car, the front desk, everybody was great. Rooms were beautiful.
Mhm.
I'll go back to that hotel in a heartbeat. And hopefully
Um,
it's for another race.
can I tell my one story about how I would improve the judging situations?
I was hoping you would.
Okay. I forgot about this, but I was just reminded
I
when I
did
was talking
not,
about
but I
my.
was waiting for it.
So we were racing mixed doubles. It's not a super important race, but anyways, I noticed, so Jeff and I were good runners, but again, we would get passed on the stations. So then eventually we would catch up to different teams on the running and we would pass them. And so by the sled pull, I had started to notice we would pass this team, but we would pass the woman, and then I didn't see her partner, but I knew who her partner was because he was smashing the machines and the sled. And so I was confused because I'm pretty sure you're supposed to be within 5 meters of your partner. And then on the sled pull, when I'm pulling the sled, I kept hearing the judge say, "Feet inside the line, feet inside the line." And I started to panic thinking it was me. And then the judge said to me, "No, you're fine. It's her." And then I saw them switch. So, okay, whatever. I let it go. And then again, we're running. I see the same girl, no race partner in sight. And then we get to, so what was the other? So burpee broad jumps. I'm not a slow burpier. I'm pretty good at burpees and I'm doing my burpees, and this person is flying by me in lengths. And so I started to hear a judge saying, "Hands at your feet, hands at your feet, hands at your feet, last warning." And I started to think again, is this me? And then I like putting my hands like behind my feet when I'm going back, and Jeff's like, "It's not you, it's her." So then as soon as she says last warning, again, this couple beside me, they switch. And then we're running again.
Well, hold on.
And
I'm going to interrupt you for one sec. So when
Mhm.
Bethany says she's a good burpier, I'm going to tell you to the extent of when we were doing our team DECA strong effort, she did the 20 ram burpees in 52 seconds, which was enough to make Ryan Kent go, "Holy shit." So that's the extent of a decent burpier Bethany is.
I can run and I can burpee. And if people fly by me on burpees, they might be doing something wrong. So again, she was throwing her whole body forward, stepping up, and then stepping past her hands. So yes, if she was cheating and then she knew when they gave her her last warning, then she would switch off with her partner. So then again, we fly by them on the run. Her partner is nowhere to be found. And I almost said to her, "Where is your partner?" Because at this point, I had started to clue in that she would take off ahead of her partner who was finishing the station, and then eventually he would catch up. Then we get to the lunges. And so we had about a minute or so, minute and a half lead on them by the lunges. And I see her doing the lunges, and she lunges and then step, step, lunge, step, step. And at this point, I'm getting furious because she has blatantly tried now to skirt the rules on every station that I've noticed. And so, and I see the judge though start to call her on it. And same thing, step, lunge every step, stop taking. And then the judge is starting to scream at her to fix her form, and then send someone else down there to say, "Take a picture of her. She's not doing it right." And then we were finishing the lunges, and I grabbed the judge too, and I said, "She has done this on every station." And then I ran away. So they did go and take a picture. And um, so, anyways, we finished the race, and I like in the end, they might have been seventh, eighth in our heat. It doesn't really matter, but it was to the point that they had planned this where she would go until they gave their final warning, and then she would fix it. And we saw videos, because she was always kind of beside me, her and her team, where she would run off as he was finishing his station. And they've done Hyrox before, so they knew the rules. And it was someone who is intentionally trying to skirt the rules. And I think, like, these are one of these situations where Hyrox and their judges, when someone does something wrong, and if they do it again, put them back. Like, be okay with calling people out on things and giving them consequences immediately. We did notice that they were given a 3-minute penalty eventually, and I'm assuming it was on lunges, because the judge had said to the other judge, take a picture of that team. But I mean, I don't know how many other stations that they had tried to skirt the rules. We saw videos of them, because they were in the videos with our sled pull, and she was blatantly stepping a full body in front of the line when she started her pull every single time until they gave her final warning. So it's these things where, why does the judge have to take it so far? Just fix yourself. And if they are doing this repeatedly when you're giving them multiple warnings, just do something about it right away. So it became really frustrating to me. And I try to operate it out of integrity. And I don't even understand why someone would race and try to skirt all the rules and then feel good about themselves. But I guess I just don't operate that way. So again, from a judging standpoint, like, immediate consequence where it's dealt with in the moment should just be the standard.
And this is,
I have a question.
hold on. The art department has a question.
What does she do for a living, Bethany?
Ugh, she's a gym owner and a coach.
So when we're talking about this too, we're not talking about, like we've mentioned before, about wall ball standards where someone's not coming to depth and that they need to be called on it and no rep. That's not cheating. That's someone who doesn't realize they're coming to depth and the referee or judge is not telling them. That's not cheating. So we're not talking about this. This is deliberate, premeditated.
Yeah.
How much can we skirt and break the rules and get away with it? And then what's our plan? And I mean, obviously they did it to the point where they got a penalty, but just don't be a dick. Like,
I know.
seriously.
Yeah.
You're not, there's no money for you in this. There's no money in the mixed doubles right now. You're whatever you said, they've placed far in age group. That's where me and Rye placed an age group, and we're out there singing songs. Like, you know, it's
well, like, I'm assuming, and we were in the fast heat, I'm assuming their goal was maybe to podium, and because they were kind of in the mix, and like, we were third in our heat. So like, up until, I don't know, they were in there. So I think it was probably their goal to podium, but like, why on earth would you want to stand on a podium knowing you literally skirted every rule at every station possible? Like, I don't understand how people can operate that way in this kind of sport.
No, and it's no different than we've talked about it many times in the past, where you're like, you'll see Spartan races and someone will have burpees, and because the people volunteering at the stations have to watch the obstacle, you'll catch them on camera. They'll do like 3 burpees and run away, you know. And it's like, who are you fooling? Who are you kidding? Like, have some pride, have some integrity.
Video and count them too, though. Now, like, in this situation with Hyrox, and unless someone took a picture or had a video of it, there's nothing that happens once they run away.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, if you're, you know, and we coach some athletes, if you were your athletes to see you doing that, what are they going to say? Like, what are they going to think about you as a coach? What are they going to think about you as someone showing them and teaching this sport? They're going to be like, I got no faith in this person. They're you know, they're cheaters. Who wants to be taught by a cheater? Who wants to be coached by a cheater? Why are you trying to find ways around the rules to be better? Why don't you, like, if you want to be better, train and get better. Don't if I do this, if I cheat this far, then I'll get it. But like, what's the point? Like, if you want to be better, train and get better. I'm going to get better by trying to skirt all of the rules. How does that feel better? Yeah. And if you're as good as you are, if you are utmost ultimate fitness you can be at, and that's as good as you can do, well, be proud of it. Own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say, I'm a 10th place runner. I'm a 10th place person at this, and that's the best I can do. but that's me doing my best, and I'm happy I'm doing my best. And you should be proud of it and own it. And it
Yeah,
is,
it feels a lot better to operate out of integrity. That's all.
yeah, absolutely. And hopefully again, Hyrox is able to clean up some judging stuff. And I'm really glad that lunge judge caught them and said it, but they should have got a 3-minute penalty for almost every station they were at for that stuff.
Yeah.
And you know what? And not to critique, but to point out some good judging, and we saw this firsthand during the women's doubles. Callie and Morgan Schultz putting on an amazing race, coming to the burpee broad jumps. And this was not cheating. This was an error. Callie went to do her first burpee, and she thought her feet had to be behind the line. She dropped her hands in front of the line and did a burpee, and the judge is like, no, you got to go back. You got to go back and fix it up, and then made Callie do it properly. And I'm like, that's perfect. That's great. And this judge had the, I don't know, bravery, guts, whatever, to say that to the leaders in the race. Yeah. And good for her. I gave her a fist bump on the way. I said, great job. She's like, thank you. And I'm like,
yeah.
And, Callie and Morgan are great people. They weren't cheating. This was just something they had done. They made a mistake on.
Honest mistake. Yeah.
And the judge called it. It probably cost them maybe 5-10 seconds. But yeah, and they still won. Congratulations. The guys did a great job. Also, congrats second place to Heather White and Kelly Sullivan. Heather, our Team OFX girl. Kelly Sullivan, sponsored athlete by Obstacle Running Adventures. Great collaboration. So yeah, it was it's just, again, it taints it. It's sad. I do want to say one more thing about Callie, and I mentioned this to her on the finish line. Callie had run a race before. It might have been New York or something else, and she got a lot of flack about her wall balls and not going to depth and form and stuff like that. And Callie took it really to heart. And you know what? They weren't great. It's absolutely true. They weren't great. This time Callie went out there and she cleaned it up. And I can tell you, I was standing right beside her, and her wall balls were spot on, fantastic. So good for you, Callie. You guys earned that win. You're both amazing women and great athletes. So I was happy to be that close and up and personal to see it all. It was great. And congratulations, U.S. champions again. That's Callie's second doubles U.S. championship, because she had the other one with Bracken last year for mixed doubles and this one in women's. So awesome. And again, probably we should mention too, Rich Ryan and Bracken winning the men's in dramatic fashion, with Rich doing 75 on broken wall balls to finish, and Bracken kind of it was 100. I guess it was 100. Sorry, yeah, it was women's 100.
This with the lighter ball for men.
It's a lighter ball, yes. So 100 unbroken wall balls, lighter ball, but nonetheless. And Bracken's kind of his coming back from injury race and pushing it. Really good. Congratulations, guys. That was great. So I think we'll wrap that up, because we do have a very long interview to bring you. And I promise you do not want to stop listening at this point. Anyway, here we go. Our interview today, David Magida. Let's talk a little about me.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about me a bit, guys.
So this is good, because it's been a long time coming. So I've been practicing here. So let me introduce your 2023 U.S. National Open Invitational, whatever, Hyrox champion, David Magida.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. I feel like we got to polish up, all it, because they kept changing the title. They have North American champion. They have North American Open champion. The check says U.S. champion. I think the sign behind me said, I was like, what? They have 6 different names for this thing. But I guess regardless, yeah, it's a great title.
I think we'll go U.S. champion. U.S. champion is the easy way to do it, because there was no Canadians in it, so it's not North America. Anyway, but yeah, U.S.
Or we could say North American regional champion or continental champion, or however you want to do it.
That's right.
Cool word.
Yeah, but it's an open champion, because it was an open.
But doesn't open sound like you're using the open weights? So I feel like it's
okay. All right. I'll give you that.
You really need to be it's World Championship Volume 2, and then preceding world championships that we're about to have in Manchester. We're basically having the third world championship race coming up.
They are pretty much three of the same races. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, there'll be some new guys, hopefully. The new guy from
There's
Glasgow.
a new guy from Scotland.
Yeah, he dropped like 5 minutes. Sounds like a legitimate course to me.
Well, you know what? I looked at that course. My first thought was no one setting a fast time at this course because it was like crazy shaped. But who knows? It maybe
we don't know, man.
Order,
you just don't know.
No, like, I don't. All right, we'll deal with all that crap after.
Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of crap.
What it's about.
All right, so dude, this has been a long journey, right? So I remember the first time, and you were one of the first people. I don't know, like episode 6 or 3 or something like that you came on, and we were talking about David Magida trash talking his way into the Dallas Invitational.
You're damn right.
So this is a long road, a long haul of hey, I proven I belong, or you know.
I think I proved I belong the day I finished second at that race. But you know, like long story short, I've had a lot of heartbreak in this sport, and then like especially in the big events, just like bad things have happened, things in my control, and a lot of things out of my control, and so like particularly at this venue, like. My finish in Leipzig, I finished 5th. That was my first time racing on the grid, my first time racing all those European guys. Like finishing 5th is actually like not that bad, but it wasn't the day I wanted. It wasn't like a disaster. I was in second for like chunks of that race, or third, and I battled Roncevic that for 7 rounds, and he got second in that race. Like it was a good day. It just didn't work out at the end. But at North American Championships, I've had 2 disasters in a row preceding this. I had 2 years ago, I came in thinking I was going to win that race. And Hunter did this whole thing about how he was sick. But I woke up the morning of the race and I could barely see straight. And I almost dropped out during the first 1,000 meters. And I was like, I'm just gonna hang in here and see what happens. And I couldn't really go. And I ended up coming to the wall balls in third and then like passing out on my feet during the wall balls. It took like 6.5 minutes to finish them. I kept like doing 3 reps and stopping and putting my head in my hands and like was just trying not to pass out. And I ended up getting passed by Brent Hastert and finishing 4th. That was a real heartbreaker. And I was like, the next year I was like, it's going to be vindication. I'm coming back for the North American Championships. And then I came in running with Rich Ryan exactly where I wanted to run. I felt super comfortable going into the sleds. I was like, yes, this is perfect. And then my sled would not move forward. It would only tip over. And I pushed the sled for 6.5 minutes and then was like, well, this race is over, and withdrew. And so a long time coming. I was like, I had some bad juju for this Chicago course, for real. And I like went to sleep the night before the race and I dreamt that I crossed the line in first, and I woke up and I was like, that felt really real. Like that dream felt so real. And then when I actually won the race, that night I was like talking to my wife and I was like, it feels like it wasn't real. Like it feels like it was a dream. Like the dream felt like it actually happened, and this one felt like a dream. Crazy. Here we are, champion.
So what I've been watching too, and I'm seeing your progression as you go along on these races, and you've most of the time, I mean, there's odd time you're not feeling well and whatever, most of the time seem to have the fitness to really be at the top, to really contend. But it always seemed like or not always, it would seem to go up and down with race strategy. Like sometimes your race strategy would work out well and you get like the second at the Invitational. Sometimes the race strategy would go south and it didn't quite work out for you. This time you seem to have the right strategy for the right course, and it played out. How much strategy were you playing?
The entire thing. Like it's so when we went to Maastricht, and I'm the only American, and my plan was to blast the runs and just be faster than everybody. And just like no one would be able to keep up with me. This was my plan. And then I'm on the plane ride over to Maastricht, and I'm listening to the Race Brain podcast, and they're like, you know, I think Magida's going to win this thing. And I'm like, you're fucking right, I'm going to win this thing. And I'm like, I got all like jazzed up, right? And I'm like, I know I'm better than these guys, and I can do this. I'm going to win this race. And then, and honestly, like I told a lot of people that close to me, like, I simmed over 2 minutes faster than I simmed when I ran 59:48 in Vegas. And so I knew I was in 57 shape and on like a regular course. And went over there. These guys went out really hard, and I was like, oh, I can't lose contact with all these guys, because it was like Venus, and Sandbach. It's like the three guys you need to maintain contact with, and that's just how they like to run. And it, I ran a little hard on the opening run. I skied too hard. I ran too hard on the next run, and then I was like, I'm gonna go take this race back on this sled, and that was a mistake because like no matter how heavy the sled is, it can just wreck you. And my back locked up, and I just was basically, you can see in the photos, I'm running like 3/4 stride, and I just couldn't go, no giddy up. And so it wasn't my fitness. It was just like I didn't do enough hip mobility before that race. I didn't start the way I like to start, which is I like to slow roll to start and then just get going, just start cooking. And in this race, I just said I'm gonna let him go. I'm gonna ski my pace for the ski. I'm not gonna push the first run, but after that, I'm gonna drop the hammer on all the runs. And I went and did an analysis. I lost the screen. I went and did an analysis today of my run of everyone's splits. Everyone's. I broke the whole thing down. And I had the fastest run split on 2 through 8. So I had the fastest run split for all of those ones that I tried to have the fastest run split on. And not just by like a little bit. Like I was taking 20 seconds on Sandbach and Kent on some of these runs, most of them. And that meant, you know, they can push a sled 35 seconds faster than me. And it like, that played into my hands. That was good. That was great. And so my strategy was sit back, wait till the sled pull, and then kick like hell. And yeah, it was magic. The only problem was that damn Dylan Scott was doing the same thing. And so Dylan, he just ran an amazing race in the same strategy. We're very similar in that we like to kind of hammer that second half of the race. We like to drill the runs. He was the only guy that was within 30 seconds of me on the running split. He was like 31 seconds behind me, I think, on the run split. And the next closest guy was 1:40 behind me on the running split. It was that big a difference. Kent was like 2 minutes behind on the run split. Vinish was 1:41 back. Roncevic was 1:41 back. So like, do you want to walk through like step by step?
Yeah, man, hit it, hammer it. This is your day.
Okay. All right. So we come off the ski ergs, and I know I'm a good 12 seconds back, at least, maybe more. And I'm like, it's fine. I drop a 3:19 split on the next run. So I pulled back a lot of that deficit. I come in, I passed like 3 guys on that run. I come into the sled push, pass a couple more people, because I was back in like 11th place or something after the ski erg. And I passed a few more guys. I come off the sled push. Now everyone's cracking. I pass Boyson. I pass a few other guys. And I come into sled pull in like 5th. Dylan's right behind me, I think. And then we went 3rd and 4th out of the sled pull. Just, hey, European guys, you're all really good athletes. Welcome to American Sleds. Because that was mayhem for them. That just exploded their world, their egos, their spirits, all at once. The only one of them who handled it well was Sandbach, but he handled it too well, and I think it really cost him in the back end. I think the sled is what cost him. And then coming off that, I ran I think like a 3:28 or 3:26, I think. So I was still cooking pretty good on those splits. And I think at that time, Sandbach and Kent ran like 3:50. So I'm just taking these big chunks of time back. So everyone's like, where did Magida come from? I mean, I gained 100 meters on every run. Like I was running 1,000 to their 900. So that's where it was coming from. And then we get into the burpee broad jumps, and I passed Kent coming into the burpee broad jumps. He was laboring big time. And I said to him, I said, come on, man, let's work together. Let's go get him. And he said something along the lines of, I don't have it. Didn't have it. And I think he says he just didn't feel good. He may not have felt good, but he went for it. And I think he may have went for it too much. I mean, he really pushed the first half of the race, especially that sled. Dylan starts to make a move on that burpee broad jump, and he and I come out in 2-3. I make a big push on the next run. I gain a bit on Sandbach. I know that both of them are gonna row faster than me, and I let it happen. I'm staying right here. I'm comfy, just like I was on the ski erg. I'm resting. I'm getting through it. Take 6 seconds on me. Take 8 seconds on me. I don't care. Yeah. I don't care. And then the next run, I took 20 more seconds on Sandbach again. And then I was 1 second behind him coming into the farmer's carries, and it was game over for him. It was like, I knew he was done because he always goes a little backwards in the second half of the race because he runs so hard early. And his goal is just break the spirit of everyone, break their souls. And I knew the hard thing for him was seeing not just me coming up, but also seeing Dylan coming up. Like the mental fuckery of having two guys catch you at the same time, and now you're dogfighting two guys at once is like, it is not a great place to be. It's not a good feeling when you feel yourself getting worse and they're getting stronger, which is how it was. So we farmers carried like identically, Dylan and I. We get out of there. I stretch away again on the next run. The lunges, my plan was like, I could have gone faster on them, but I was like, I'm going to go fast. I'm going to go the pace I want, which I hit the exact same split that I hit. Oh.
You're good.
Man, bummer. On the lunges, that was Dave Watson, by the way. On the lunges, I did the same exact split that I did in New York, to the second. So I just like was steady. And I was like, Dylan's going to gain a few on me, but only like 8 seconds, something like that. And I was like, I'm fine with this. This is great. And we left 1 or 2 seconds apart. And I dropped a hammer on that last run. And it was a short run. Like it wasn't a long run. That last one was, I don't know, 300 meters short. Yep. But that run was still maybe 250. I don't know. But yeah, so maybe 250 short, maybe even less, maybe 200 short. I don't know what short it was, but I do know that I put another 7 seconds on Dylan on that run and then came into the wall balls. And I knew Dylan's super strong through the whole race, but wall balls are probably his worst station. And so for me, I was like, if we come in together, I'm going to win. If we come in and I'm within 15 seconds of him, I'm going to win. He knew he needed 20 to 25 seconds of cushion to beat me on the wall balls. And so when I came in the front, I did like a quick 31. I had a very high cadence for it. So I knew I could take rests, but I was like 2-second rests, like, and then back in. So I took like 5 breaks, but I still wall balled my fastest wall ball I've ever done in a race. So I've never broken 4 before, and I did 3:55 in this one. And at the end, it's, you're literally like, you're saying to yourself for the last 30 reps, you're like, dude, just keep going and you're a champion. Like, keep going and you're a champion. And earlier I'm saying all kinds of other things. When I'm running and I was catching people, I was like, who's my bitch? And I passed someone and be like, you are. And then I run, I see the next person like, who's my bitch? You are. And I was just having a blast. I was blowing kisses to the crowd. Like that was the best I have ever felt in a Hyrox. I didn't hurt in any capacity until I got to, I mean, you hurt during the sled, but like I didn't hurt like in a bad way. I didn't suffer until I was like halfway through the lunges, which is where you always suffer. So everything was magic. And like, I know that I can race like that anytime if I run smart. If I take care of my hips and my back and everything's loosey goosey and ready to go, I could run that well at any race.
I was sitting there, so I was on the backside, right by where you would come out of the rock zone. And that's where like Bethany and I would often do handoffs and stuff like that on the camera.
Saw Bethany a lot there.
Yeah, well, yeah. You saw Bethany a lot everywhere. She was running right beside you guys. But I would come there, and I think it was after the sled pull, and you came by, and I'd seen the guys ahead of you run, and I saw you come by, and you were just running smoother and calmer. And when you ran by, you just had this smile on your face. And I'm like, oh shit, he's ready to haul now. Like he's done it right. I didn't, I'll be honest, I didn't sit there and go, oh, he's going to win, right? But I knew you were about to start picking people off, because it was just the way you looked at that point was like, yeah, he has got this in control right now. He is on a move.
Which station was this after?
I think it was after the pull, after the sled pull.
Oh yeah. I had a big shit-eating grin on my face for that whole lap because I knew there that I was going to win the race. I was aware that everyone was in big trouble, because when I've simmed and I've come out of the sled feeling like that, I have put down some monster runs for the rest of my sims. And the only thing that really ever stops me is if my back tightens up. So I knew it was like, oh, my burpees are going to be fine. My carries are going to be fine. Like in Maastricht, everything hurt because my back was in like full, like balled up lordosis. Like I was just arched and it sucked. And it was like, guys, you're getting the full force of everything I have on my run now.
Well, and that's what I said. Like I watched the other guys run by, and they were hurting, and saw you come by, and you were moving faster, and in like a smoother, nicer run, and smiling. And I'm like, okay, he's on the ball. Like he's not making a move he's not ready to do. He's smiling because he's feeling good and he's going faster. So I was like, shit. But
And I was coming around these laps, right? Not only am I like running well, and I'm looking at my splits, and I was assuming that like one complete lap was approximately 400 meters on the dot, and it was like pretty close to that. And so I was like, "Ooh, nailed it! Ooh, nailed it!" Like every time I came, I run off my watch like so much, it's crazy. So a race like Maastricht where the runs are like 1,200 meters or 1,150, that threw me off like a little bit more. But this I was like, oh, this is just perfect. And then I come around, and every time I'd come around, Rich Ryan is out there, and he's like trying to give me intel, and I'm like, dude, it's cute because I already know exactly what's going on out there. Like it was like great, and he's like he's doing this, he's doing that, and I'm like, yeah, I got it, dude. But thank you. Like I love it's good reinforcement. And then I come a little further, and one of the guys I coach, Jordan, is there, and he's yelling stuff at me, and he's going, oh my god, he looks good, like as I came by, and then my wife's there and I'm blowing kisses, and like it was like, oh man, like I had a crowd of like 15 of my clients on the bleachers. So when I'd come in, it'd be this really loud roar for me. And then it kind of picked up like amongst the rest of the people in the bleachers. I guess they were like, well, are we supposed to be cheering for this guy or something? Because it was get real loud when they'd call me out. And Erock was like really gassing me up on the mic and stuff. And I fed off that like so hard. And it just like my confidence was just like building. And I could see like people wilting like all around, especially the guys. Like I would come to a station, and like there's a bunch of European guys still on like the previous station, like suffering through it. And I was like, how far back are these guys right now? Like what's happening? And then I look over, and Sandy's he was hurt. He was in a world of hurt. He had to live in a world of hurt for like 30 minutes during that race. That is just a bad place to be.
I will say this about Sandy is the last two races, he obviously was in a world of hurt, but
He held on.
He's turning that corner where he's like, okay, I know I'm in a world of hurt, but each time he's getting there now, he's seeming to be able to push further and harder and such, so on and so forth. So that's,
I mean, I think he pushed further and harder in Maastricht than this one, but he was still like, this one was still like really good. Like I told him I'm really proud of him because like before Maastricht, he was having like a little. Sandy and I are like good buddies, and we became good friends in London. And like Lottie, his wife, and I talk all the time. And we talk about dad stuff and baby stuff, and so he came up to me before Maastricht, and I was like, how you doing, man? And he was like, oh man, it's not good. Like he was like in his head, and I was like, Sandy, man, like you're so talented. Just go run. When the race starts, it's all gonna be fine. Just go run. And he's starting to, like his head is always going to be there, but he's starting to get it under control a little bit. But I don't care who you are. When a guy comes up on your left and then another guy comes up on your left at the same time, and you're in a world of hurt, it's very easy to kind of throw in the towel.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think he did that this time. I think he got beat.
No.
But I don't think he quit. And there's a big
I think he ran out of gas. I put like 2 minutes on him in the last like four stations, I think. So it was, he did the best he could, but no one was beating me. Yes, I don't care who. No one was beating me yesterday. Or Saturday. There's just no way. Because I had more. Like if I had to run faster, I could have run significantly faster than I ran. I wanted to make sure I didn't blow up because I knew I had it. And so I was like, okay, be conservative enough to finish this thing out. But no one was catching me. And if they did, I had another gear. The only reason, so like when I crossed the finish line and I was done, and Dylan was not, was because Dylan didn't have to empty the tanks on the wall balls. Dylan went hard on the wall balls, and he realized when I was like 30 out that he wasn't going to catch me. So he got to kind of cruise that one in a little bit. And you could see like he felt much better at the finish. But the guy who, like, I was not taking any chances at that point. That's when I sold out on it. And so, I think the thing is, like, I could have sold out on the last couple runs more if I needed to. And I didn't have to. And that was, thank God, because that would have hurt really, really bad. And who knows what would have happened? Because anybody can blow up at any time in this sport. There's so much talent, and there's also, it's like, Hyrox is such a finicky bitch. She's like the marathon, except she like punches you in the nuts 15 minutes in, and so like maybe it's gonna go great, and maybe it's not, and you have to be really incredibly disciplined. And I definitely ran like a Tobias strategy, except that I have higher end running than Tobias does. So if you take that strategy and then you put my running into it, it's like, oh man, it can be another level up.
So the one thing that we noticed, and you can tell me how your perspective for this, Beth, but our job as rabbits, we were running with the guys and cover the guys until the women started, and then Bethany and I were to shift over to the women. So we didn't get to see the finish exactly right when it was happening, but we could.
And you guys did not really see me because I wasn't leading, so you guys weren't really
No,
filming.
no. Like, yeah,
I know.
kind of where I said, like at the end of the sled pull where I saw like you're making your move. It was soon after that we went over to cover the women. And then we're hearing like Magida won, Dylan comes second. We're like, what? It's just, we were very excited, obviously, because you guys, Dylan's part of Team OFX, and we, I always root for you too. And so it was very exciting. But I mean, like, when did you click into it, Beth? When did you figure out that they had got it?
It was long after the women finished. I think I was in, or not even finished, but I think I was waiting. I was videoing the women finishing wall balls. And people were like, hey, did you hear Dave Magida won? And I'm like, excuse me? Like, because when I left you guys, when I was rabbiting, you were maybe 7th, 8th, because it was before the sled pull that they had sent me over to the start of the women's race. So, I mean, and I was running with the leaders. So I was with Sandbach and Ryan Kent most of the time, and you weren't even on my radar. And then Dylan had even come over and helped me with some camera work, and I had no idea that he had come second, even when he had helped me a little bit until after. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I've been hanging out with you and I didn't even know. But yeah, I had no idea. But what I did notice though, because if when I was videoing the women, sometimes I would just catch on and I would run with Sandbach or Ryan Kent, because I had just kind of assumed that maybe they were still watching some of the leaders. But what I was surprised by though was the pace though of Sandbach and Ryan Kent when I would pick them up again, because it was so dramatically different than when they started. So Ryan Kent was really hurting. So I knew he was no longer fighting for the lead, but even the pace though with Sandbach, I was just, and it's so crazy to me though, the pace that these men sometimes go out at, and then by the 5th, 6th, 7th run, it's so different. And I don't always understand that race strategy sometimes, but it was when I can barely keep up to them at the beginning, first few kilometers, and then by the end, they're just like having a conversation. It was kind of blowing my mind. And then videoing with some of the women sometimes, and I don't know what this feels like to be in the men's race. And there was multiple times when I was with Lauren or Michaela and we were overtaking Sandbach or Ryan Kent. And then so to have the women running faster paces and overtaking the men.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think part of that was it's the American sleds. Like the guys they were aggressive on them the way they are in the European races. And I think it just trounces people. And you just have to work them at a very manageable rate. You have to be like, okay, I'm comfortable giving up like 25, 30 seconds on this station, because you're going to give up minutes on your run otherwise. And, also with the running early, it's the same thing. Like, would you start a 10-mile race by running like a all-out mile on the first mile? Like, you'd never do that. And so it's just like being a little bit more tactical and just understanding that, like, man, okay, a really good Hyrox race, like these guys are running like 29 minutes for their 8K. But if I can just run 27:30, then I have so much cushion. And for me to run, like I ran 27:21 was my run split. Now, that's slightly off because I'd say add 40 seconds because I didn't have that last little curve to run. Let's call it 28 minutes, right? 28 minutes plus a huge rock zone. 28 minutes is you're looking at 5:35 mile pace. I've been training all of my sim training. I've been doing at 5:36 mile pace. So I just settled in, and it was gravy. And that is a very fast pace, but it's not a very fast pace for the way these guys run the first run. So I'm like just sitting back there, and I giggle, like I'm laughing about it, like that I fell into that trap in the race in Europe, because I'm like, I probably would have won that race too, to be honest. Like I really feel that way. I know my confidence is very high, and I've always had a lot of confidence, but I mean, realistically, if you run that way, you should be able to be in the mix to win any race. Any race.
So before this race, you had a good time. Obviously, you had a time that got you in the mix, but it wasn't safe.
I was not going to be safe. I was going to have to run everything.
Yeah. So what was obviously the plan? Well, maybe has changed now, but what was the plan before this race, and then how does it differ now?
I was going to run Houston. I was going to fly to Europe for a race. I was going to go to Anaheim. I was just going to run like everything. I was debating running Dallas. I was like, this is just nuts. Like no one's considering running Miami for a qualifier, obviously, but nobody's considering that. But now actually, Kate was planning on coming to Houston with me because I have like 15 athletes coming. She wants to run again, but I've talked her into running doubles with me now. So we're going to run my first ever doubles race, mixed doubles in Houston. And so that's a big change, right? And so that'll be super fun. I basically now, even if I'd been like time qualified, I would have been like neurotic all season. Like last year I was qualified like for the majority of the year and then got like boxed out towards the end of the season and then had to scramble to fly to London to go try and qualify again and missed it by like 16 seconds or something on that monster London course. And on a race, Sandbach didn't even get a qualifying time on that course. Like, and he finished 6th at Worlds. And so, I mean, yeah, the system sucks, but whatever. I didn't want to be nervous all year, but I kind of expected to. Now it's like, okay, take a breath, really think about what you want to race, but more importantly, how do you want to train? And this means that I can sit back and do a 12-week training block and not have to interrupt it by tapering for any events and just not be stressed. I can just train and train and train. And if I feel like jumping into a race, I can do it. And so that's now going to be the rest of my season. And it's a really envious place to be. Like I felt like Dylan was already safe with his time.
Yeah.
But he too can now just like not stress. There's 5 of us who can not stress. There's like 8 people because there's like all those guys that got like 57s in like Frankfurt. They can also not stress. But everybody else, like even Hunter is going to have to like run really well if he wants to get in somewhere, because I think it's going to be like a low 58 when all is said and done to get in.
And let's be realistic. And I heard people say this stuff like, well, when the qualifying standards and stuff, well, it works for Ironman, it works for marathons, and they're all different courses, and it works. But
that is a trash argument because we only have 15 spots.
Yeah, it's not just that too. It's this. If you want to qualify for Kona or whatever, and you want to, like, if you go to these races, the same races are fast races every year.
Yes.
You know? With Hyrox, you don't know which one's going to be fast at what point. Frankfurt might have been fast this year. It might be slow next year.
Well, that's the thing. And
right, so
like,
you can't just pick
Hamburg was fast this year, but like they're going to run Hamburg again. And I feel like they do like a little self-correcting every year. Like last year, Madrid was like the fastest course in like the history of the world. And this year it was like just normal. Yeah. And like when I went and did London was like the slowest course of all time. I mean, they had 43 people heats, and like you were just running through like an endless grid of sleds and like an endless grid of like ski ergs and rowers and stuff like that. And it didn't help that I ran off course going into the wall balls, but like I would have qualified if I hadn't done that. It's just like so stupid. But yeah, man, it's just a bad time is a bad way to do it unless you're doing like time in your region. Like if they were like, okay, we have 3 or 5 auto qualifiers per region, and you can only race in the region that you have qualified in. Meaning like you could run the North American championships, but in order to do it, you have to come to North America and qualify in the region.
Yeah.
Right. That would be cool. I'd be fine with that. But then also I would say you have the auto bids, and I would have like 5 in each of them. And then I would say, okay, now each region gets another 5 guys after that who are based on time in that region. Right.
Yeah.
And now let's all go party. Let's have a fiesta out there in Manchester. But I also think that if you're running races where the field is 43 or 50 people, then you should be able to accommodate that at the championship level. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see a reason why you can't just make it bigger. It's a championship, especially when we're talking about this year doing the championship race on a separate day.
Yeah.
Like it's the night before, isn't it? So
yeah, it's a 2-day event. So yeah,
I'm like booking my flights based on that. So I need to know like if it's going to be a Friday or a Saturday. They got to make that clear. But my point remains, which is, like if you can accommodate that many people and you have the time to like switch the room, like it's not that hard. Just do it. Like, what are we doing? Like the CrossFit Games starts with like, well, it used to start with a ton of people. Remember that year that Hunter was in it? Like 200 people at the first event.
It was insane to start out with.
Did it hurt the event to have them? I don't think it did. I thought it hurt the event that they cut like 50% of those people like after the first event. I thought that was ridiculous.
Well, the problem with CrossFit Games too, when you do that big influx and then you have cuts right away, is each workout or each event that you have is so specific that it caters to one person. And I mean, we used Hunter as an example for that. Like, had they had the ruck / whatever run it was right off the beginning, I mean,
he would have won that event, and
he would have won that event and moved on. But you put in handstand walks and snatches, and he's going to get dusted. And that's what I mean, where it's so orientated to different people's skill sets. And
CrossFit will turn around and say, well, you're supposed to be good at everything. And you're like, yeah, but you're not going to be the best at everything. And that's the problem. Like there are people in CrossFit who are grinders, and there are people in CrossFit who are power primarily, and they all can do a bit of everything, but they still specialize in certain things. I think the thing is, why am I spacing on her name? The woman who ran Elite 12, CrossFit. She's older.
Sam Briggs.
Briggs. Yeah. I'm sorry. I cannot believe Sam. If you're listening, which I know you're not. I know you're not listening, but if you were listening, I apologize.
So want to meet Sam.
But she's a grinder, right? She can just sit in a pain cave for a while, but she's not a particularly good runner. She's not really, really powerful. She can just grind, but she has been at the games a bunch of times and finished well a couple of times too.
She won in 2013, I think it was.
Yeah, like in the early days.
Yeah.
And the point being, like, she can do everything, but if you were like, hey, you're eliminated if you can't power clean this much, like she'd be out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so anyway, back to our previous point, which is like, just have more people. It's fine. Just have more people. And like, because like for Rich Ryan and Rylan Shadegg to not be in that race was a travesty. Now, I think I would have still beaten them both, but I'm not being like a cocky whatever, but Rylan has run like one race.
Yeah.
He's never raced on the grid, right? Like that is a big factor. He also, he was good, but he wasn't like unbelievable in his first race. He ran probably a comparable time to what I did in my first race.
Yep. And
I've been doing this for 2 whole years now, 3 seasons. So I think that there's a level of experience that gives me a massive advantage. Plus, I'm much fitter than I was when I started. Rich, as gifted as he is, has really only popped one big one ever. And that was this race last year. And it was an hour 35 on a faster course than this. So, I think on a course that was probably 2 minutes faster than ours. I would say ours, if we were on a regular race, I'd probably run in the 57s.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think with Rich and Rylan, both of them, I think they would have won? Probably not. Do I think they would have won the podium? Probably not. But I do think they would have belonged.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. They 100% deserve to be there. And I think when I was in Maastricht, I tried to pitch this to anyone who would listen. I was like, you have 2 open spots, just let them race. Even if you only have 1 open spot, add a wild card. Like, just add them. Like, put them in there. Like, why do we only have 4 Americans? And they were apologetic. They were like, we actually just didn't expect that many Europeans to want to fly over for this. And I was surprised. That was pretty naive, I think. But like, the Hyrox team is really trying. They're great people. They're really trying hard. There were unintended consequences that they didn't think about, but part of the problem is that these rules need to be created by a panel of athletes who really get it on a deeper level in terms of the competitive side, because I think the top 25 men and 25 women in the world, I think they understand the sport and the hierarchy of the sport on a deeper level than the people who are putting on the races.
Well, I think it's hard for the people who are putting on the races to see it from that side because they have other things they need to think about. And it's hard to take that out of your head and just say, I'm just going to think about it from this one perspective. That is not my perspective. You won't see every grain of it. You won't see every aspect. So I totally agree with you. And I've pushed this before, and I've mentioned to them and others that, like, hey, I'll put together a panel for you of people, make a call conversation. They can tell you what they think will work, what they won't. And you don't have to take every suggestion, but you can just hear the ideas.
I personally think that they should have a panel of the most analytical men and the most analytical women. And I think it should be approximately 5 of each. And personally, based on my experience in the sport and who I have spoken to about this stuff, it should be myself, Dylan Scott, Rich Ryan, and then I would put Alexander Roncevic on that list, and I would add 1 more European. Probably Tobias would be my 5th male that I would consult on that. And then we'd have the 5 of us, and then I would have 5 women. And those 5 women would be Lauren Weeks. It would be Viola. I would have Alondra, because she's brilliant. Right. I would have Tara, because she is also super. I spent a lot of time with her in Europe, and I did not realize how analytical she is. She's an incredibly deep thinker and very, very thoughtful. And she really puts a lot of thought into like any concept that she has. And so I would put her absolutely on it. And then if I had to add 1 more person, like I think Meg's a little too new. I think that Michaela is a little bit too new. They have good feedback, but I think you needed to see it for a couple seasons. So I don't know who would be the last female that we would put
Linda
on
Meyer.
that list.
She's been doing.
Linda Meyer, yeah, exactly. And then you'd have a 10-athlete panel where we could have conference calls with their leadership team during the off season and establish the official rules for how that this should move forward. Yep. And I don't think anybody would complain about any of those 10 people being the athlete representatives.
No, not at all. No, they're all good. And I mean, some of them you can interchange, whatever, but it's a good concept and it's a good idea. No, you would not complain about any of those ones. They're all very, very smart. And like you say, analytical, where they can look at it from the different perspective. Yeah, you're right about Tara. I guarantee she has everybody's splits already written down and is analyzing everything right now. And
for sure.
Yeah. And
for sure. She's like a little Jack Bauer.
Yeah, she is. Yes.
She probably doesn't have the color-coded one that my dad sent me this morning.
Probably.
My dad is a big Excel nerd. He's like, it looked like a Jack Bauer one. It had blues and reds and like all that. And yeah.
I've seen Tara's. They're all like whiteboard written and stuff and on paper and shit. I'll get like screenshots of them and photo. Look at
hers are more like it's like a Goodwill Hunting. Like it's like
it's a beautiful mind, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the path forward then. So it's off to Manchester, and the world's in a safe spot. It
could be heavy there. The sleds in London were like really heavy, so it's possible that the Manchester ones are actually heavy. I think that's why Sandbach did well on the sleds and the other European guys did not.
I did hear even from a lot of the women because I did open, so I pushed the women's sleds, and they're like, "How are they?" And I'm like, "I thought they felt fine," but then again, I didn't have the comparison that I was told after by Lauren. She's like, "No, they were heavy." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Well, I mean, just for frame of reference, my push, and I went a little more relaxed on this, but not that much more. My push here was 1 minute and 4 seconds slower than it was in Maastricht.
Wow.
Just for frame of reference, okay? And as fast as Sandy's was, it was 30 seconds slower than he was in Maastricht. Okay. So as much as they want to say it's the same, it's the same. We all know the truth.
Yeah.
I don't care who says what. I'm sorry if you think that we're complaining, but you're the ones that are full of shit, not us. And that's when you have guys that run 61 or 60 in Europe and they run a 75 here, you embarrass the sport.
Yeah.
No disrespect, but you do.
And I think the position they're in is unenviable because they have to kind of toe this line. And I think they know, or they wouldn't have tried to change it.
But that's why you just send each continent gets the same number of people at championships. That's how you do it. Qualify in your region.
Yeah.
Qualify in your region. The really cool way to do it would be every country gets X number of people, or every venue gets a guaranteed qualifier.
Yeah.
Every venue gets a guaranteed qualifier would be an amazing way to do it, because if you've qualified, aren't you still going to go to every race to try and keep other people from qualifying?
You have a 2-man final and 3 girls.
I mean, like Tobias is going to go win like 6 races. Like it's what he does. And like, I mean, really, I think it's kind
Come
of
on, Dave, you're a TV guy. That would be terrible.
Well, it wouldn't be like that though, because there'd still be qualifiers via time. Yeah. But the auto bids, you got to stop people from getting those. It'd be dramatic.
It'd be exciting.
Yeah, it'd be dramatic.
Awesome. All right. So we did talk about this a little bit beforehand. So we'll move on to some stuff and I don't know, Beth, do you want to start with this or?
You want me to kick it off with the commentary?
Yeah, you can kick it off with the commentary. There's issues we had with some live stream, which we were a part of, so to speak.
Yeah, well, our job was to carry around the cameras, and unfortunately, Dave and I both, our headphones died, so we didn't actually hear the commentary. But watching the live feed after, and really, we're just coming at this from the perspective of like, we love this sport, obviously, and this is why we do what we do. So all of this comes from a place of we want people to fall in love with the sport like we have. So the people representing it and the people talking about the sport and talking about the athletes in this, in the Elite 15 races, we just wanted it to be the best experience possible for everyone watching. And, you know, there was friends, families of all of these Elite 15s watching. And just when I was listening back to the commentary, there were just some things that were kind of upsetting to me with the commentator. And I mean, there were some things that were done so amazingly too, but just, it was frustrating to me at points when there were athletes who, there was a lot of things that were said, like, who is this person anyways? And there was an incident too, where multiple times Vivian Tafudo was never actually called by her name until after the whole race was done. And she, as far as Vivian was concerned, she had the race of her life so far in Hyrox, and she was constantly called another name. And which creates a lot of frustration too for, again, the people watching who, you know, I don't know, Vivian's friends and families might have been tuning in. But multiple comments where just the names of the athletes just weren't said. And again, like we're showcasing the best of the best. And the people, the commentating, and it wasn't, the entire thing too, but just knowing a little bit more about the athletes would have added to it, and just the names of the people that were finishing, again, even just in those top 5 positions. But the thing I think that really got to me though, and, I'm going to be careful too how I speak about this, but I find it really interesting how when people talk about the men and we talk about, you know, their ferocity and their grit and their grind, and then we shift over to the women, and then all of a sudden now we're commenting on what they're wearing, what their body looks like, whether their leanness, making comments like these chicks or their thick thighs. And those just aren't things then that were said on the reverse side. And I don't know why this continues to happen in broadcasting of sports, where why are we commenting on women's bodies and not using things like, instead of saying their thick thighs, why are we not saying like her powerful legs?
Yeah.
And, like she crushed those lunges, not because of her thick thighs, but man, the power in those legs. Like, and then we're wondering why women will dress in long sleeve shirts and full length tights. Well, maybe she just doesn't want someone commenting on her body, and maybe just don't even comment on what she's chosen to wear. Like, these things just aren't said when it comes to men. And it's so increasingly frustrating when you still have to listen to women's bodies being talked about their looks instead of what they're capable of. And these are extremely powerful, strong women doing some of the most remarkable things I've ever seen the female body do. And you're still using words like her thick thighs. And it just...
Can I jump in here? Was that okay?
Yeah.
Be careful, man.
So there's I need to. I actually want to. Well, first of all, as a professional broadcaster of racing, which I don't care who you think I'm talking about. I'm talking about me, and you can't deny it because I was the broadcaster for Spartan Race for 6 years, okay? Via NBC Sports, ESPN, YouTube, Facebook Live, Instagram, whatever it was, okay? I'm disgusted by this shit. I really am. It's for so many levels. The way that they treat the female athletes when this happens is ridiculous. The way it makes a mockery of the sport as a whole and of the athletes as a whole while we're trying to grow it is counterproductive to everything that we're trying to do. And I just am furious that we had such a big stage and we decided to go in a direction commentary wise of like an untested team, and knowing that you're going to have a loose cannon up there, an entertaining one who has credibility, but has no sense of how to do homework ahead of time, how to conduct himself without cursing, how to conduct himself when referring to women. And look, we're talking about Hunter. I love Hunter, but that was an inappropriate selection. That falls on Hyrox because they handpicked him and insisted that he be used for this role. And it falls on him for not doing any homework to know who any of these people were. But that also does fall on Hyrox as well, because it is not hard for you to say, hey, Elite 15 athletes, I need you to send in a picture of yourself and a one paragraph blurb / a list of accomplishments so that these guys don't have to go scour the internet to figure out who you are before the race. Because I do feel for Bracken, I had to do that in Abu Dhabi. I had to go look up who all of these guys who live in Abu Dhabi were. And they're like, I don't know who any of them are. I'm looking at them from a distance and I'm trying to figure that out. So I do understand that struggle. What I can't condone is turning around and talking about girl-on-girl action and shit like that in the middle of a broadcast feed of a championship race. And it just pisses me off because you made a mockery of what should have been a huge event, and you did it because you thought it was funny, and you did it because you weren't a part of it, so it didn't matter to you. And you don't respect the other people in the sport, and this is a problem that we've had for 10 years since we've been teammates together, racing side by side, when I had to book your fucking plane tickets to get to races because you were such a fucking child. And now here we are, and you still can't treat people with respect. Yes, Hunter is my friend, and he's like my brother, and as my brother, I am allowed to say, you're being an asshole.
The thing that got to me, then I mean, obviously Bethany stuff aside is absolutely the point, but the side point for me was, this was a good chance, a really good chance to show a really good face and to really promote. And you have someone like Michaela there from the CrossFit world, so bringing in some different eyes. You had really the best U.S. international field mix that you've ever had, especially in the women's division. And instead, it came off that way, and it was. And I'm with you in the way that this was predictable. This was something you could see. Yeah.
Will Hicks told me that Hunter was going to be on the broadcast feed with just Bracken. And I said, I love Bracken. He's always my number one pick to work with me. But he is an analyst. You don't have a play-by-play guy. You need a play-by-play guy. You put Bracken as analyst. Now you have Bracken as play-by-play and Hunter as analyst, and it's going to be a nightmare. And I told them this.
Yeah.
But what do I know?
But like you said, it was not the OCR report's choice. Right. That was not.
And I'm particularly also disgusted because I'm the one who set this up in Maastricht. I don't know if people know this, but there would be no feed if it wasn't for me in Maastricht. That I got my boots on the ground there. We tried to set it up months in advance. I emailed every week about it. They had no plan for a feed the night before the race. And I finally got in front of Christian, man to man, and we talked it out with him and Mo, and I got them to agree to do the feed.
Yeah.
Okay. You did a great job in the Maastricht.
And I can attest to that because it came down last minute. I got a call noon the day before at work saying, "Are you available tomorrow morning to do this?" And I'm like, I guess I gotta be. But yeah, and first I got a message from you and then I got a call. So yeah, Dave's not lying. It was him that set up the ball rolling for that for sure. And it wouldn't have happened otherwise. But
and then they came immediately after that great feed that you did and said, "We want to do the same thing in Chicago. That was so great." And now what? Are they even going to do a feed for World Championships?
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember after that feed getting messages from Hyrox saying how happy they were with all of it. And
of course they were.
And like I don't care who does. Like, I mean, who does it? Like, I mean, I've done a few and that's great and I've enjoyed it. But if it's not me, I don't care. I'm not taking any problems from it. I just want someone who's going to grow it. I just want someone who's going to grow it and make it look good.
This is what it's about. There are three objectives when it comes to this feed. Okay, it's my wife. She's up screaming. I'm all worked up, man. We have three objectives with these feeds. Okay, the first one is to get this broadcast out to our followers. The second is to grow the sport, and the third one is to make these athletes look like heroes, right? So you're storytelling and you are putting them up on this pedestal where you are showing the world how gifted and talented and hardworking these athletes are. And we accomplished none of it. Yeah. And it's not Bracken's fault.
No.
He was put in a lose-lose situation. Yeah. Yeah. And listen, like I said, Hunter's my friend, but I knew he was going to do this intentionally. He started slinging around $20 bets 30 seconds into the feed, and we knew it was a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. And it hurt. It just is such a waste of a great effort by a lot of people.
It hurt me personally. I felt really sick to my stomach when I went and watched the feed because I was like, this was the biggest race of my life. Yeah. And I didn't get to really enjoy that feed. There's nothing usable from that. No. I told all my members and athletes that I coach, watch this feed. This is where you can see me. Oh my God. Can you think about how nauseating that felt to know that that's what I sent hundreds of athletes to go watch. Like, and then, like, again, Bethany, you're 100% spot on. All the stuff said about women in that. But it's just who he is. That's how he thinks. That's how he feels about women. And so, women are not humans to him. They're just literally objects. I'm serious.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I only laugh because, oh wow, that's just it's just dated.
Well, and I felt for Michaela too when she fell, and then he made fun of it too. And I love watching the Tour de France when there's a big collision and everybody falls and the chick down, girl down, or whatever he said. And I'm like, she just fell so hard. And I was running with the girls at this time too. And like Meg almost turned around, Chris Rogowski almost stopped, and it was made fun of. And that's a really traumatizing moment in a race. And she pulled herself together, and that's something to be celebrated, but it was made fun of. And again, like, you have these opportunities to elevate these women, but then you go on and you make fun of it. And it was so frustrating listening to it back, and especially being in the race in a way that, like, I was up close and personal and watching what these women did. And it wasn't talked about in the way that it should have been. And because they just did such an amazing thing, and it was talked about in all the wrong ways.
If she hadn't have popped up so fast, half of those racers would have stopped. You know,
I
half of
know
them.
they would have, and I was because I was there. Meg turned around twice. Chris Roglowski almost put her brakes on. Like there was multiple women who were going to literally pick her back up off the ground, and that's the culture of this sport. And I was right there, and they were all going to do it. Lauren Weeks didn't see it because she was a little bit ahead, but all of them, like they would have thrown her back up on her feet. I know they would have.
And for the record, the most amazing thing that wasn't even touched on about that is that she got up to the skier third still.
Unbelievable.
I was like blown away. I was like, this was incredible. Like you think about those, you know, those scenes from track and field athletes that have been like tripped, trampled, and they get up and win. And that is, I mean, it was amazing, incredible. It was like Lassie Viren, you know, like
And when you saw her go down, it looked hard. Like
it was like face into the pavement, feet back overhead. She had tried to skirt around the group, and then the staircase was there. She tucked back under. I think Alondra Greenlee accidentally clipped her. She was back in the mat, and then she went down so hard that I gasped, and I was like, "Oh man, I hope she gets back up," because it was really bad.
And also, like we didn't even get a highlight. Like Alondra, you know, like how great a race she got. She had like these people popped great showings. Like Meg had an amazing day. She didn't win, but she had an amazing day. We didn't get to highlight it.
No, that Alondra is just like step forward. She's just getting better and better and better. And I think about her and Vivian too. Vivian, every time she races, just gets a little bit better each time.
Yeah.
And those, that's the stuff I want to hear about. That's what I want to see. I am going to come to a bit of the defense of the thing with Vivian where she was referred to wrong, just because I have done it, and I know Dave, you have too. Is that when you're doing that, you're often looking at a computer screen which is already small, and then it's broke up into like 5 different, even smaller screens.
So you're looking at a teeny tiny screen,
and it's hard, very difficult. Now, I'm not saying that if you did your homework right, you wouldn't be able to pull it out, but it does happen. And I
called people the wrong thing so many times.
Yeah, I give them a pass on that one.
I had one race at Big Bear where I called a girl Ariel Fitzgerald for like 5 times, and it wasn't her. And I was, and she was devastated, and I was mortified. And it happens. Like that is an honest mistake. That is, but that also is like if we had just been given a briefing document.
Yes.
Because it's not like Spartan Race where like random people show up. Like it's an invitational. Like you have everyone's data. You could at least have a list with their name, their picture, their qualifying time at a bare minimum. But you could also pull up all their splits from their qualifying race as well. So you could at least see, like it's so easy to have this stuff at your disposal. And all it took was somebody, and it shouldn't have to fall on Bracken to pull that data. Like somebody from Hyrox could have emailed each person and been like, hey, can you send a picture of yourself and a bio and a screenshot of the race where you qualified, like of all your splits?
Yeah.
It would have been so easy.
And with the Ariel Fitzgerald thing, actually, it ended up coming full circle because at Blue Mountain, she finished 4th, and they didn't realize she was in the race until she crossed the line.
Oh, God.
So
it's bad. I mean, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it happens.
But we should be talking about what a great performance by, the top finishers, Michaela and Meg and Lauren. I mean, Lauren still ran a brave race, and people don't realize like how hard it is to race when you are breastfeeding. Like the amount of energy that she's using in that is just crazy. So, just the most respect. And then, on the men's side, it was an epic race, man. And just too bad. It's just like, it didn't have to be like that. And
one of the things I love.
This happened last year. They did not. I told them I would handle the live feed for them for World Championships because I didn't get to race, and they turned me down, and that was a disaster too. So,
that was a different way.
Yes,
but the one thing I really was excited about during the race too was the race behind the race between Tara, Viola, and Vivian and Bridget Brown. Those 4 were just, going at it toe to toe the whole way and back and forth and back and forth. And that's, like you said, that's the kind of thing, like I want to talk about that, but it gets overshadowed by this, and it's sad. It's very disappointing. And hopefully, hopefully this is a lesson learned. We'll see.
Yeah. On the plus side, we get another crack at it, World Championships.
That's right. And I mean, going into that too, looking at it, like you say, it's going to be a very similar race. I think there might be a couple of different names near that shift at the back, but I think you are going to have a good race. I am really, and this might be a selfish thing, but I'm really hoping that Ryan Kent finds himself a good fast race to qualify in and gets to jump on board on that and go from there. Same with Rich. I think we've lost Ryland for the year.
I bet you he pops one somewhere, but the question is, will it be enough? You got to really train specifically for Hyrox to be great at Hyrox.
Is that something? And I guess this is kind of back to actually good stuff, or at least topical stuff. That's not Christopher Goloski on this one. Is the sport evolved to the point where last year, I mean, she capitalized on a situation and had great fitness. Is that enough to do it anymore, or is her lack of specificity just going to drop her off?
Oh my God! Look, I love Chris, but that was as fluky as it gets. You had the two top women, in my opinion, were both pregnant.
Yeah.
You had Viola ran an extra lap. A couple other people blew up, and then she just swooped in. And it just doesn't happen. You have to also run extraordinary. You can't run 107 and win a championship. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to see Meg and Lauren and Alondra and Michaela all run 107 on the same day. It's just not going to ever happen. That was fluky, but a win is a win. So take it, girl.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing. But I know, and she should be super proud of it because on that day she was the best. But it will never happen again like that, ever. That was a 1 in a million, and you know what? She still won it, but that would be like somebody winning the men's field running a 103.
Yeah. And does this represent the end of kind of the OCR hybrid crossover where you could be great at both, and now that seems to have gone away? Because I think it is. I knew it was coming, and I think it's here now.
Great at both, or really, really good at both? Because Kent could be really good at both.
Yeah, Kent could be really good.
Ryland could be really good at both, but I don't think anybody could win the championship at both.
No, and I think that's the situation Chris is in. She can be very good at both, but I don't think she can repeat again. I don't think she can catch lightning in a bottle twice. I don't think she unless. And
I think she's realistic about that. I talked to her after the race, and she was like, "Yeah, I got second to last or something." She's like, and I was like, "Maybe the next one." And she's like, she doesn't do it all just to win. She just loves sport.
Yes.
That's a person who just loves to compete, loves to race, and she just does great things for every sport she's involved in. She was a bag check after the race, just a great person, just like Dylan. He's over there helping with the live feed. I would have helped with the live feed, but I was very preoccupied when I finished. If I had not won, maybe I would have helped with the live feed, but I was I had a lot of athletes. I was running around with them. I was hugging a lot of people. I was being swarmed. It was really crazy. It was really, really crazy experience for me. Surreal.
I think if I didn't let Dylan take my gimbal for a lap, he would have took it from me. There was just no stopping him.
Yeah, and it was good. He got to cool down. I mean, I got on a bike and biked for 15 minutes, and same thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But I did not want to be running anymore. I wanted to be laying on the floor at the end of that.
Yeah, well, he was Dylan. He's just warming up. He was getting ready for the third one.
The hybrid raccoon.
Yeah, that's right. The hybrid raccoon. What a great name.
He put that post up, and he was like, he goes, I realized I missed getting my tattoo by 35 seconds. If I won, I was going to get a tattoo of a raccoon holding a gold medal. And I was like, dude, why didn't you tell me? I would have let you in if I knew that you would get a tattoo with a raccoon holding the gold medal.
You know what you should do now? When you get your winnings, you got to send him a gift certificate to get it done.
I'll do it for him. I'll draw it on him. We'll do prison style too. I'll take a pen and break it and
put a little teardrop with it. It'll be great.
Yeah, it'll be a raccoon with the teardrop.
Yes,
it's even better. Yeah, so that you have to keep your face clear. You got to be employable. You know, like those people who have like a tattoo like in the middle of their forehead, like they shave their head and there's like a spider web on top of their head. You're like, who do you think's going to hire you? Like, it's crazy.
That's awesome. All right, man. Well, the big thing I'm going to say, obviously, congratulations. We've been waiting for this. We've been looking forward to it. I think it's,
Yeah, me too.
I don't want to say it's long overdue, but it's great to have it happen. And I sincerely hope the momentum carries you into Manchester and we get just as great a race, because I expect nothing less. I expect another fantastic race and just the best people going at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we proved the American sled thing. Like everyone was waiting for me to prove it in Maastricht, and I just had a bad day, and I was the only like person there to provide like body of evidence. But I think we proved the American sled situation with this race. The times it took people, the damage it did, the lasting effects, and how long the races were. The fact that 4 Americans ran the race and all 4 somehow ended up in the top 8.
Hmm.
And the top 2 men. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, something to ponder. But yeah, that was great. And I got to live a dream that day. Redemption Day, big win. And I never thought I'd get to call myself a national champion. Like I always wanted to, but I never know. I was like, when's this going to happen?
So there's one left, man. World champion.
That's the one. I told Kate at the beginning of the season, I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this for like how many more years I got in me. Like this might be the last hurrah this year. And I'm going all in. And I had 2 goals for the year: North American champion and world champion. Box 1 checked. Let's go. Number 2.
All right, Beth, you got anything else for Dave?
Oh, that would be a very good ending to the podcast. But thanks so much, David, for coming on. Always a pleasure. And again, congratulations on the North American Championships and all the best at Worlds.
Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot coming from you guys. Love you guys a lot. I love the show, but also just like hanging out with you guys.